cents. Is that going to make any impact for people earning that wage?
Look, this is an increase year on year for people on the minimum wage, which is good for workers. But we also know that workers and business have been doing it particularly tough this year, so it's trying to strike the right balance for workers and businesses who stomach the additional cost. But if you look at a different forecast, if you look particularly over the last 5 years, if we looked at the inflation rate versus what the minimum wage has gone up by, minimum wage has actually gone up by a higher rate than inflation. So you've got to look at the different timescales.
So is increasing it by a lower than the rate of inflation the answer to years of increasing it by higher than the rate of inflation?
Yeah, well, we're rebalancing what Labor has done. If you look at the 7 years before I became a minister, the inflation rate went up by around 25%, but the minimum wage went up by around 50%. That's not fair for businesses, and we know particularly this year, business has been doing it tough. You've seen it even in the economics that have come out today. And so we're here to rebalance what Labor has done.
The New Zealand First Coalition Agreement stipulates a moderate increase in the minimum wage each year, starting 2023. Do you think that you are honouring that when it is a cut in real terms?
We have been honouring the National New Zealand First Coalition Agreement. This was a decision that was agreed to by all three coalition parties. Of course, there's always going to be a range of views around a cabinet table, but I think it is the right approach.
You're comfortable that a cut in real terms is a moderate increase, quote unquote?
Well, what I've been saying is if you look at different timescales, remembering, of course, that we're not setting for today, we're setting for April 2025 through to February 2026, when inflation rates have been falling. So we've got to put it in perspective,
inflation
but also...
2% though, and the increase is 1.5%. So it's going to be below inflation unless the Reserve Bank messes things up again.
But we're also looking at different timescales. Like I said, if you look at the 7 years before I became a minister, the minimum wage went up by 50% when CPI went up by around 25%. So if you take all of those years together, including the minimum wage increase that we are increasing people's wages by this year, people are still better off than years prior.
That, except that the coalition agreement says a moderate increase each year, not on average over the past 10. You're sure you're honouring that agreement? Mr. Peters says that we might expect a bigger increase next year to make up for the two smaller ones. Is he right?
Well, I can't speak to where Cabinet will land next year, but what I can speak to is why our government has decided to go for a moderate increase. It is a modest increase, but it's looking at the costs that businesses will be needing to stomach to pay employees more. We want to acknowledge that employees as well as business have been doing it particularly tough this year. We want more younger people into more jobs, but we also know young people have been bearing the brunt of new unemployment statistics. How do we get more young people in jobs? We build business confidence. We allow more businesses to hire someone, but once you start attacking the minimum wage and putting it up and up and up and up, it's really going to change business confidence.
Sorry if this has been asked, but what did you and ACT advocate for? What would you have liked it to be?
I advocated for a 1% increase, believing this to be the appropriate balance for employees and workers, so that employees would see an increase, but also acknowledging that business in particular has done it very tough, and we want to build business confidence throughout the economy.
Is it appropriate for Winston Peters to stipulate what might happen in a portfolio that you manage?
Well, Winston Peters has many opinions on many different areas, but I can't talk to what will be happening in a year's time because I haven't even started to think about it.
Thank you.
Cool, thank you.